Okay, so everybody's in listen-only mode, so we'll just wait another minute for our last board member. Just some housekeeping. Try to keep yourself on mute.
Whoever's got the background noise.
Okay, Zach, sorry, I just let me unmute staff members. Okay. Okay. Zach, can you hear everything okay? Okay. Okay, now I'm having a problem hearing folks.
I can hear you.
Oh, okay. Vikram, I can hear you. Zach, I'm not hearing you. Can you say something else just so I can see?
Uh-oh.
Yeah, I'm not hearing you. Vic, are you hearing Zach?
No, I'm not hearing him either. It looks like his microphone is not turned on the attendee list.
Okay. Oh, okay. Oh, I only see him on the, yeah. Huh.
It was working
Zach,
before, so he may need to call back in.
yeah, Zach, could you just rejoin? Is that okay? Just so we can make sure we can hear you. Everybody on the call, we will start in just a couple minutes. This is, the first time we're doing a virtual meeting, so bear with us as we, struggle through. I hope everybody is doing well. Okay, and Liz, I just see you just joined as well.
Hmm.
Can you say that again?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, there we go. There we go.
Testing 1, 2, 3. Everyone can hear?
Yes.
Yep, I can hear. Everybody is unmuted.
Yep, I can hear.
Okay. So
This is Liz.
I had Willie. Thanks for joining, Liz. I had Willie on the phone. He has the phone number. But I think we do have to kind of get going. So hopefully he can call in and join. Soon. Okay.
All righty. I will begin tonight's meeting by calling the Condo Review Board meeting to order, dated Monday, April 27th. I will start by reading, pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order superseding certain provisions of the open meeting law, G.L.C. 30A, S.18, in the Governor's March 15, 2020 order imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place, as well as Mayor Curtitone's declaration of emergency, dated March 15, 2020. This meeting of the Condominium Review Board will be conducted via remote participation. We will post an audio recording, audio-video recording, transcript, and other comprehensive record of these proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting on the City of Somerville website. So I will now take attendance of the board members who are present. We have Vikram Kanda, we have Elizabeth Janiak, Vice Chair Patricia Paul, and Chairman Zachary Zasloff. Currently not present is Board Member William Medeiros.
I just spoke to him on the phone and he did say he was going to try to call back in. So he's doing his best to call in.
Thank you. And also attending the meeting is City Staffer Hannah Carrillo. Moving along, first item of business on tonight's agenda, we have meeting minutes from December, January, and February that we need to approve. Starting with the December minutes, has everyone had a chance to review those? Are there any corrections or additions that anyone would like to add to the December meeting minutes dated December 16th, 2019?
I have no corrections.
Does that go for the rest of the board? No
I
corrections?
wasn't at this meeting, so I will refrain from comment on this one.
No correction.
All right, seeing there are no corrections from the two board members who were present at the December meeting, I will now make a motion to vote on those meeting minutes. All in favor?
Just to recall, it does have to be a roll call vote.
Even on the meeting minutes. Okay, thanks for the
Yes,
clarification.
every vote, yeah, every vote the board takes has to be a roll call vote. It's a little bit tedious, but we will go ahead and do that.
Yep.
So you just did the motion. So now I will proceed with the roll call vote. So board member Janiak,
Aye.
board member Zaslav,
Yes.
and board member Paul.
Approved.
Thank you.
Hannah, just for clarification and consistency, should we, on the roll call, should it just be a yes or no vote?
Yeah, you all said a different way of saying yes, so why not just say yes?
So going forward on the roll calls, we'll do a yes or no. Moving along, we have the January meeting minutes dated January 27th, 2020. Again, to the board members who are present, I believe the four of us were all present at that meeting. Does anyone have any corrections or additions to the meeting minutes dated January 27, 2020?
Nope.
Seeing there are no corrections or additions to be made to the meeting minutes, I will now make a motion for a roll call vote for approval on the January 27th meeting minutes.
Board member Janiak,
Yes.
board member Kondo,
Yes.
and board member Zaslav.
Yes.
So it is recorded.
The next meeting minutes for review are dated February 24th, 2020. Board members that were present at that meeting were board member Kanda, board member Medeiros, and myself. Without
Yes.
board
Maybe
member
we can-
Medeiros joining the meeting, we're going to be unable to approve these meeting minutes, Hannah.
Yeah, so maybe we table it for the end of the meeting, and if he's able to join, we can go ahead and approve them at the end of the hearing.
Okay, sounds good. So I will make a motion to table the February 24th meeting minutes until the end of the meeting, which we will then review again. If board member Medeiros does not join, we will then table the approval of these meeting minutes until the next condo review board meeting. So moving along through the agenda, we have new business to review as a board, and they are the applications for preliminary condominium conversion and non-rental conversion permits. The first application in front of the board this evening is the application of Cassia F. Silva and Paulo De Silva. They are seeking a non-rental conversion permit for Unit 1 located at 38 Dane Street.
I've
If
unmuted Melissa
they are
Hagemeister
on
and Cassia. They both
this
should be.
meeting or a representative of their application, if they can please, we can give them the ability to speak to the application, Hannah.
Yep, Melissa, you should be unmuted and able to present the application.
Hi, Attorney Melissa Hagemeister here from Adam Dash's office, representing the applicants. My clients do not believe that we need a removal permit, but we are seeking one just to have it be cleaner, because we've checked with the city and don't believe that this falls underneath the jurisdiction of the condo board. But we're going to go ahead and just make it cleaner and apply for one anyway. This is part of a larger project. This is a 5-unit condominium building. 38 currently has 1 unit. Eventually in phase 2, it'll have 2 units. And the property next door is a brand new building, which that one, of course, doesn't fall underneath the condo jurisdiction either. What happened is this is a single family building currently. It's vacant and it's owner occupied. The building next door was a vacant lot. The T put it up for sale and my clients purchased the property. They're not developers. They're just a mom and pop, and they took a shot on a vacant lot and decided to put a condo on it. They're Somerville family. They have a Somerville business that one of them owns and the other one works at V&A as a translator. And they've decided just to have the family in 1 unit. They're going to have their daughter in another unit and another family member in another unit and rent out 1 unit. So they're not big time developers. This is just a simple property, and the only permit that we need is just for the 1 single family owner occupied unit. So that is what we are applying for today. And we ask that the condo board grant this property the permit. We have provided the documentation that is necessary. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that detailed explanation. I will now open the floor to the board. If any members have any questions for the attorney representing the application for 38 Dane Street, please speak through the chair if any board member would like to have the floor. Seeing there is no discussion from the board, I will now close the floor for the board and now open up the public commenting period in regards to the application at 38 Dane Street. If anyone is on this virtual meeting from the public and would like to speak in favor or against this application, Hannah will grant you the ability to speak. Hannah, just for clarification, are you able to tell if someone from the public would want to speak? Do they have the ability to flag you? Hannah?
Sorry about that. Yes, so I can see if anybody wants to message in the chat, I can see that, and then I can go ahead and unmute folks if they indicate that they do have a public comment. So everybody's
Okay, I
going to
just want to make sure that
until their application comes up.
Yep, I just want to make sure that we are giving the public the ability to speak. I know these virtual meetings are new, and one of the concerns that I've personally heard is that it would be excluding the public from being able to have a voice in matters, not only for the condo review board, but other meetings. So I want to make sure that we do have the ability to allow the public to speak in favor or against applications in the current virtual meeting setting.
Great, thank you. I have received a couple of other messages in the chat, so the chat function is working. So if there was a public comment, if there is a public comment at any point in time during this hearing, please indicate that you have a comment in the chat, and I will go ahead and unmute you at the appropriate time.
Thank you. Seeing there are no public comments for 38 Dane Street, we will now close the public commenting period. And as I go through this application, it looks straightforward to me. The property is currently owner occupied. We have the residential exemption in play. There's no waiting period for the one unit. We have their certificate of good standing dated April 22nd. We have the water bill. Now there was some discussion around the water bill and the timing of it. I'm okay with approving it as is. We have the deed, which is included. The master deed is also included in the application, and we have a check in the amount of $600 to cover the non-rental conversion permit for Unit 1. Not part of the application at this time is the engineer and architect report. So at this time, I'm prepared to make a motion for the board to vote on a conditional non-rental conversion permit for Unit 1 located at 38 Dane Street on the condition that the engineer and architect report is submitted to the city staff at a later date. And at this time, city staff, Hannah Carrillo, will conduct a roll call vote.
Great. Chair Zasloff?
Yes.
Member Kondo?
Yes.
Board Member Janiak?
Yes.
Board Member Paul?
Yes.
And I don't believe Willie has been able to join us yet. So it's 4 yes, 0 no.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Great. Thanks, Melissa.
Moving along, the next application in front of the board this evening is the application of Jim Lin and Minhyu E for 529 Mystic Valley Parkway. And they are seeking a preliminary conversion permit for Unit 1 and Unit 2.
Yes. So I'm seeing a couple of people are muted themselves. So if folks want to go ahead and unmute themselves, I believe I've unmuted everybody to speak to this application.
Hi, so this is the attorney Erin Zhou from MT Law. So I represent my buyer, actually the clients, Jim Lin and Minghui Xie for this condo conversion permit. I actually helped them to purchase this property in 2018, in July 2018. At that time, the property was vacant. And I also checked the MLS listing. The property was in vacant as well. There was no lease. And since then, because the condition of the property was not that good, so my clients did the renovations and they changed like the roof and all the systems in the house. And then they want to convert this two units family to 2 units condo. And actually this property, since my clients purchased it, it's been vacant. My clients actually did not occupy the property until now. And now the property has been renovated, in very good condition. And my clients is just want to convert it to 2 units and then put in the market and sell to the people who needs them. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the explanation. At this time, I would open the floor to the board. If there's questions or concerns for the attorney regarding the application of 529 Mystic Valley Parkway.
I have a question.
Sure.
So,
Board Member Kanda, you have the floor.
thank you. So looking at this application, I just want to verify, are the 2 units at are they 527 and 529 Mystic Valley Parkway?
Actually, the legal address shown on the deed and the title is 229 Mystic Valley Parkway, but this house is actually 2 units.
So it is 527, 529 Mystic Valley, yes?
I think so.
Okay. So this property is on the MLS listing. I just
Yeah.
looked it up. It's been on for 60 days, and that is something that we don't allow actually to happen. We have to.
Oh, actually, the MLS listing I was mentioning is about the MLS listing that I help my clients to purchase this property in 2018. I don't know which MLS listing you mentioned. It's currently or the previous one?
It's currently been on for 60 days, it says.
Oh, okay. I wasn't aware of that.
It is, this is Board Member Janiak, if I could just add, it is however listed as a multifamily home, not as 2 condominiums.
Yeah, actually, my clients, I think my client's intention is they want to sell this as condo, but if for some reason the board cannot approve it, and then they just sell it as a multifamily. But I think as of now, my clients want to sell it as condo because then the single unit price would be lower and more affordable by those people who can afford in Somerville.
Okay, I think if it's listed as a multi-family, I don't think that that's the issue. I think the issue is whether or not it's listed as a condo. Is that correct? Board Member Conda?
I think so. And at looking at it again, Board Member Janiak is correct. It is listed as a multifamily home,
Okay, which is okay.
which is okay.
Board Member Kanda, or are you
No
all,
other.
all set with?
Yep.
Okay. So I believe there was some question regarding the prior proof of residency and the inability to provide any sort of tenant information. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, actually, because we actually trying to find any previous tenants was in the in the property before, but unfortunately, because when I helped my clients to purchase this property, the property already vacant. There was no lease, and then we somehow trying to find the previous seller, and the seller actually their grandchildren told us the seller was in the nursing home and then passed away. So there was no way to verify. But as I said, the MLS listing, when I help my clients purchase the property, that MLS listing showed there was no lease in 2 units. So when the seller trying to sell this property to my clients, when they try to sell, and then there was no lease at that time.
Okay, thank you. Hannah, just for clarification, this will require the 1-year waiting period?
Yes, yes, it will.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other comments or questions from the board regarding the application of 529 Mystic Valley Parkway?
My only question is, since the 1-year waiting period does apply and this property is on the listing as a multifamily, when it is sold, what goes, what does the new owner sort of know? Is he getting a property that past that 1 year waiting permit, he can then sell. I mean, it seems like it's on the listing to make it easier to sell, but it will have to, if it is for sale currently within this 1 year. I just want to make sure we're clear. This needs to be sold still as a multifamily, correct?
Yes, I will actually let my clients know that because we haven't received the condo conversion permit. If they're gonna sell, it has to sell as multifamily. But if I sell condo, then we have to get the permit first. So I will advise my clients that.
I'm sorry, just some minor note.
So just for clarification, if we were to vote on the application tonight and grant you conditional approval, you wouldn't be able to sell those as individual condos for 1 year.
Understood.
So your only option is, regardless of whether you're approved or not approved tonight, would be to sell the property as a multi-unit dwelling, or sit on it for 1 year, and then you would be able to go to market and sell them as individual condos.
Okay.
Just to clarify, they cannot be sold for the year, yes, but technically they can be marketed once conditional approval is granted. It wouldn't make a ton of sense to market them this far ahead of time. No matter what, they still have to wait the 1 year before any kind of sale can close. But technically, once somebody has a conditional permit, they can market as a condo, because there are guidelines
Correct,
that
yeah.
would allow the sale of
Sure.
some conditional units.
Okay, I have a question. So the 1 year starting from your approval date, for example, if we approve tonight, and then the 1 year starts from tonight?
Yes. If
Okay.
the board does approve the application conditionally, then yes, the 1 year would start tonight.
Sure. Thank you so much.
Any other comments from the board regarding 529 Mystic Valley Parkway? Seeing there's no more discussion, we will close this portion. Close the floor to the board and open up the floor to the public. If anyone who is on the virtual meeting would like to speak in favor or against the application of 529 Mystic Valley Parkway, Hannah will grant you permission to speak.
Yep, I'm not seeing anybody in the chat at this time.
Okay. Seeing there are no public speakers regarding 529 Mystic Valley Parkway, we will now close that portion of the meeting. And at this time, seeing no other discussion regarding this application, I will now make a motion for the board to, before I do that, let me run through what we have in front of us regarding the application. The attorney spoke regarding to the acquisition of the property dating back to its vacancy, July 2018. They've otherwise had problems being able to track down previous tenants, which will make the waiting period in effect for 1 year for both units. Due to the property being vacant when they acquired it, there's no notice to be given. We do have the certificate of good standing dated January 31st. We have the final water bill paid as of February 14th. We have
We did actually also get updated documents. Sorry about that, but we did as of April 22nd.
Okay, sorry.
They're further in the packet. Sorry about that.
So the final water bill is as of April 22nd. We have the deed included. We have an engineer architect report, and we have a check in the amount of $1,200 to cover the preliminary conversion fee for unit 1 and 2. At this time, the application does not contain the condominium master deed. So As chair of the board, I'm prepared to make a motion for a conditional, to vote on to conduct a roll call vote on a conditional preliminary conversion permit for Unit 1 and Unit 2.
Okay, Board Member Zaslav? Board Member Zaslav?
Yes.
Board Member Conda?
Yes.
Board Member Paul?
Yes.
Board Member Janiak?
Yes.
So we have an approved application, an approved conditional application with a 4-0 vote. Moving along through the agenda, the next property and application in front of the board this evening is 15 MacArthur Street, and it's the application of 15 MacArthur LLC. Arlene Souza, and she is being represented by Attorney Spang.
Hi everyone, how are you? My name is Matthew Spang. I'm the attorney representing the 15 MacArthur Street LLC. We're in front of the board tonight seeking a non-rental conversion permit for one unit at 15 MacArthur Street. My client purchased the property in July of 2019. At the time, it was a single-family owner-occupied purchase, so it was a vacant upon transfer of the conveyance. And we have since added a newly built second unit, but we're seeking one permit tonight.
Thank you. At this time, I will open the floor to the board. If any of the members have comments or questions for the attorney representing 15 MacArthur Street.
This is Board Member Janiak, and I do have a comment that this property is currently listed as condominiums on MLS. Sadly, as of, I believe, yesterday or earlier today, it was listed. So I just wanted to note that for my fellow board members.
Okay, just so I'm clear, because obviously this is new for a lot of people here. I did tell my clients that if they were to list it on MLS, they need to note that there was no conversion permit, or the conversion permit would be pending. Did I see that correct?
Technically, you do not have a condo to market until you have the.
I guess what you're saying. Okay.
Of the board. So, we've advised and gone on the record stating, for all applicants to not prematurely go to market with their property until they come in front of the board, specifically with the new policies in place. So at this time, I would continue to keep the floor open to the board to sort of speak to this scenario that we have in front of us. Any comments from the fellow board members?
This is Board Member Janiak. I will comment, since I brought this up, that given that it was listed yesterday, I know we've taken a strong stand to not approve applications where there's a premature listing. I don't know if I would feel comfortable making an exception, given that this is not someone who's had the listing up for a long time and has prospective buyers that they're trying to close with, et cetera, which I think was our motivation for wanting to be really clear about this with folks, that we would hate to see buyers or sellers get left in the lurch if folks are prematurely listing their properties and then we have to deny a permit. That doesn't feel right to us. So So I think given that that's not the case and it's only been listed for a day, that I'd be comfortable approving it regardless.
Any other comments from Vice Chair Paul or Board Member Kanda? Any thoughts?
Yeah, I was actually going to say I feel the opposite. We've been seeing this happening quite more often than we like. I think as a board, we've voiced ourselves about this several times. And the fact that it was just yesterday, it's still premature to me. So I think, yeah, I kind of feel the opposite. So I do understand, given everything that that Board Member Janiak was saying, but I'm kind of at a point where I don't want it to be a reoccurrence that this continues to happen and we continue to make these type of just keep doing the same things that this is just going back to the last applicant. It was there. Yes, it's a multifamily. That's fine, but there's been other meetings, and I think I'm just at the point where I don't know if I want to give any more leeway at this point. So that's my opinion on it right now.
I certainly understand your position, and I agree with you guys wholeheartedly with, they shouldn't be listed, after hearing Board Member Zaslav's explanation of why they shouldn't be listed prior to, coming in front of you guys. That makes total sense to me. For what it's worth, any sort of, I guess, leniency you could extend my client here. I mean, we did apply to get on the meeting for March, which we weren't able to do because, everything got pushed back with the pandemic and everything like that. So any leniency you could offer us for, just being a day under the circumstances that, sort of we're going through to try to make the best of a tough situation, even doing the meeting like this, would certainly be appreciated. But like I said, I've come before you guys a few times, and I certainly understand your position, and obviously I will carry that forward with me for anybody else I do represent, because I do agree with your your stance. But any sort of leniency you can extend in this one case would be very much appreciated.
Thank you, Board Member Kanda. I'd be curious to hear your opinion on the situation.
I actually happen to agree with Board Member and Vice Chair Paul here, and I think especially since the current, since we are in the current situation, I could see others sort of do the same thing. So I think we need to make a stand. I think we've been saying this at every meeting, and I agree with Vice Chair Paul on this one.
As chair of the board, I would just make one comment regarding the premature listing of the property. While I tend to agree with Board Member Janiak that it was only a day ago. They were on the application on the agenda for March. Obviously, no one could control what took place. It's kind of a gray area with the pandemic. And then the last point that I would make is this was a single family owner occupied property. So it was not a rental and did not result in anyone being displaced or asked to move to result in these condos being built. So that would be, to me, the deciding factor, at least in my opinion, as to why I would, support approving this application tonight. But that's what I have to say on the current situation. Are there any other comments from the board before we move along and open up the public commenting period regarding 15 MacArthur Street?
I have a question for my fellow board members. I'm looking at old meeting minutes now, trying to remind myself what we, because I think Chair Zaslav has been crystal clear in previous meetings about what the consequence would be for listing. Can you remind us what that is? Is it to deny the application or to defer for a month? I
Yes,
can't
so
recall what you've stated
it is a
previously.
I believe it was to table it for a month and make them remove the listing.
Yeah,
But
so it is a denial, but the denial doesn't come with the 6-month time period where you cannot reapply. They'd be able to reapply next month. They would just have to resubmit the application and pay the application fee again.
Thank you. That was my last question. I don't have anything else to ask before we open to public comment.
Vice Chair Paul or Board Member Kanda, or any other follow-up comments? I mean, there's no more discussion. We will close that portion of the application process and open up the floor to the public. If anyone online on the virtual meeting would like to speak in favor or against the application of 15 MacArthur Street, please let Hannah know and she will grant you access to speak.
I'm not seeing anybody.
All right. Public comments are closed for 15 MacArthur Street. As I review the application in front of us tonight, the applicant seeking the non-rental conversion permit for Unit 1. This was previously a single-family owner-occupied property, so there were no tenants. It was purchased vacant from the previous owner. There was a residential exemption. There's no waiting period. There was no tenants to give notice to. We do have the certificate of good standing dated March 3rd. Final water bill paid as of March 3rd. We have the deed as part of the application. We have a check in the amount of $600 to cover the application fee for the 1 unit they're looking to convert. At this time, not part of the application in front of us this evening would be the condominium master deed and the engineer's report. And just for clarification, we do have this property being listed on MLS 1 day prior to coming in front of the board, which is what's ultimately going to be the underlying factor on how this board votes this evening. At this time, seeing there's no further discussion, I will now make a motion for the board to conduct a roll call vote on a conditional non-rental conversion permit for Unit 1 located at 15 MacArthur Street.
Board Member Zasloff?
Yes.
Board Member Kanda?
No.
Board Member Paul?
No.
Board Member Janiak?
No.
Okay.
That is a no vote with a 1 to 3 vote, not in favor of the application this evening. So, Hannah, for clarification, can you speak to what the next steps are for the applicant and the representative on the call tonight?
Yep, so essentially the applicant is just going to need to get updated docs, updated certificate of good standing and water bill. Everything else I already have, so that's fine. They will have to also get an updated check in the amount of $600 for the 1 unit. All of that will need to be submitted to me in time to be on the agenda for the next hearing is going to be June 1st, actually. So for the June 1st hearing.
And Hannah, can I clarify, this is Board Member Janiak for myself and my fellow board members, that in addition to all of that, we're obviously advising that this be removed from MLS so that we can feel empowered to approve next time.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, can we will you be able to get some clarification or proof that on the date that it was removed?
I
Yes,
can
I can-
check. I don't know if I have, yes, I can check on that.
Or to the attorney, Attorney Spang, if you can advise your client to remove that from the MLS listing
Yeah.
ASAP as soon as possible, and provide proof to once that's come down to Hannah,
Sure.
so that we can have it as part of the record for the next meeting.
Absolutely, no problem.
All right, thank you.
And I'll supply all of that, the application.
Moving along, the next application in front of the board this evening is the application of 18-20 Spring Street. That is the application of Leanne Walsh, and she is being represented by Attorney Vigorito.
That is correct. Ann Vigorito, 424 Broadway, Somerville, Massachusetts. And if I may I proceed, Mr. Chairman?
Absolutely.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. I do represent Leanne Walsh, the applicant, and she has submitted this application for a preliminary conversion permit for units 18 Spring Street, 18A Spring Street, and a non-rental conversion permit for 20 Spring Street. These are located at 18-20 Spring Street, Condominium, Somerville, Massachusetts. Before you, you do have a completed application, pages 1 through 11. You have a completed tenant information packet, pages 12 through 18 for all the tenants. Owner affidavit with proof of residential exemption for 20 Spring Street. The deed to Sullivan Kozniak and Leanne Walsh, joint tenants with rights of survivorship, dated July 30th, 1997. The deed to Sullivan Kozniak and Leanne Walsh, husband and wife, as tenants by the entirety, dated November 20th, 2001. Deed to Leanne Walsh individually, dated November 10th, 2004. You also have a paid water bill. You have a good standing certificate from the city of Somerville, as well as a check in the amount of $1,800 for the 3 permits. At present, units 18 Spring Street and 18A Spring Street are occupied by tenants. The tenants have expressed to the applicant their intent to voluntarily vacate their units, but have not yet indicated when they will vacate. The tenant has collectively expressed their willingness to execute supplemental affidavits expressly affirming their waiver of their rights of the right of the first refusal and rights to remain in the unit for the duration of the applicable notice period. Currently, the applicant and her family occupy unit 20 Spring Street, and they have occupied the unit since purchasing the property in July of 1997. After the conversion, the applicant does intend to occupy unit 20 Spring Street and retain ownership of unit 18A Spring Street. Therefore, at this time, I would respectfully request a preliminary conversion permit, as you do not have a master deed, nor do you have a structural engineer's report. Thank you so much for your consideration.
Thank you. At this time, open the floor to the board for discussion on the application of 18-20 Spring Street. Board Member Kanda, the floor is yours.
Thank you. 2 questions. One of the tenants, Josh Bluette, did note in his application that he would consider purchasing the property, his unit specifically. So, you know, even though I think, you know, the rights of first refusal were waived in some cases, that specific tenant did mention that they would consider purchasing. So something to keep in mind. And then Ms. Vigorito, were you going to say something?
Oh, no, yes, I'm so sorry. Yes, I mean, that will be bared in mind, of course, at the time of any point of sale, of course.
Great. And then two of the tenants did note on question 8, which is our question about special provisions for low income or moderately or moderate income, the elderly, or anyone who is disabled. Tenant Ayers left that question blank, so we'll just need an answer to that. And again, that can be conditional.
Sure.
But tenant Gregory noted IDK for I don't know to the question, which does beg the question of whether there's some clarification that's needed for that specific tenant. So that is something I think we should consider. I leave that to the board to discuss.
Okay, I mean, we can definitely follow up with the tenants, especially on the I don't know. I'm not, sometimes, it's difficult as the attorney for the applicant to per se start calling the tenant, but I'm more than happy to have myself
I can
or
also
Brianna.
go ahead and reach out to them and just confirm that they understand all of their rights and all of that. Yep.
Yeah,
Great.
it's just one of those, it's one of those issues we've seen before in units that have tenants who are, just sharing an apartment, where sometimes the question is a little ambiguous, as it relates to the income of everyone living in the unit, or is it specific to each person? So, I think this has come up in the past, so it's something worth clarifying.
Definitely.
Will do.
Thanks for bringing that up, Board Member Kanda. We can condition, make it as part of the, when we go to vote, condition the vote on those specifics. Can you just, so that I recite it correctly, is it unit 18 and 18A, or are two of the tenants residing in the same unit?
I'm sorry, are you,
I believe it's unit 18, 18A, and 20 are the three units.
But the ones in question that we need clarification on, the tenant's desire to purchase a unit, and then the other tenant's where they left it, I don't know. What specific unit was that?
I believe it's units 18 Spring Street and 18A Spring Street. Those are the tenant occupied units.
Okay. Any other further discussion from the board regarding the application of 18-20 Spring Street? Seeing there's no more discussion amongst
Actually,
the
I
board.
do. I have a question. I have more of a question. Hannah, you had mentioned reaching out to the tenant last name Gregory. Is it possible to reach out? It's just two others in the application just struck me odd. One of them said that they weren't home when the notice came and a constable delivered it. Another one said that the copies were dropped off and delivered from some other people in the household. I'm getting this. I just want to have more clarity that they all understand their rights. It seems that they kind of were given paperwork and just told to fill it out, which is fine. They're supposed to, but for me, I'd like to know that they all understand their rights. So this was the tenant last name Atkins, and there was another tenant last name Gregory Atkins, and what's the other gentleman? This is gentleman last name of Carter. Michelle, it's actually a woman.
Okay, we do have a couple of tenants that are going to make public comment, but also I did send emails to every single tenant before the hearing, informing them, of all their rights, letting them know if they had any questions and all of that. But also when we get to the public comment period, it does appear that we will have some public comment.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other follow-up comments from the board before we open up the public commenting period? Seeing that there's no more discussion amongst the board, this portion of the application process is closed, and we will now open up the floor for public comments for the application of 18-20 Spring Street. If anyone listening on this to this virtual meeting would like to speak in favor or against this application, please let Hannah know and she will grant you access to speak.
Michelle Carter, I've gone ahead and unmuted you if you'd like to speak.
Yes, thank you, Hannah. This is Michelle Carter. I'm a tenant at 18 Spring Street, and I'm also here with Joshua Blewett, who is a tenant at 18 Spring Street. I think we just have like one comment or a couple of comments, but I'm going to let Josh go first in regards to the question of his desire to purchase a unit.
Yeah, sorry for causing confusion on that. I am waiving my right to purchase the condo, just to clear that up.
And then the other thing that I wanted to bring up, which I do want to say, Hannah has been really great about answering questions that a few of us in this unit have sent via email. Really good about getting back to us in a timely manner and explaining everything, which we really appreciate. None of us have a legal background, and so understanding the ordinance was kind of tricky, especially since it kind of feels like it's written for a single occupier, and we're obviously 5 people sharing one unit. But one thing that we were unclear on was what our rights are as we do one by one begin to depart. Specifically, if, say, one person moves out, are the rest of us then responsible for paying that person's portion of the rent? Or are we responsible for finding a subletter to fill that space, which I think during this time especially would be very difficult for us. And then that's something that we've tried to understand on our own. It's something that we have emailed Hannah about. And then most recently this afternoon before this call, we did speak to Lee, our landlord, about it. And she expressed that she does not have an expectation for us to be responsible for paying the rent of a person or persons who move out of our unit, nor does she expect us to find a subletter. But I just wanted to raise this in case it does need to be on some sort of official record, as something that was very unclear, or it didn't seem to be directly addressed in the ordinance, especially for units that have multiple unrelated persons sharing a unit and all being together on one lease. So I don't know if you guys are able to speak to that, but even if not, I just wanted to make sure that I voiced it. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Carter, for those comments. As chair of the board, I'm not versed well enough to speak to the legalities surrounding renters and who would be responsible, whether the renters still in the unit would be responsible for covering the portion of the rent from the departed tenant or not. You know, what I am glad to hear is that the current landlord does not expect you to pick up that additional, commitment to bridge the gap on the rent. So that is very good to hear, at least in respects to this application. If there's another board member who may be versed in the legality surrounding the question presented to us, I would welcome your input, or if Hannah, as part of the city staff, has any clarity, I would welcome her feedback.
I can answer if you so allow.
I'm sorry, who was that?
It's Ann Vigorito.
Attorney Vigorito?
Oh, no, I have an answer, and
No.
that's fine. Thank you. If anybody on the board does have anything else to say, I'm happy to hear that, but then I do have clarity to offer.
Thank you, Hannah.
Anyone on the board?
I have more of an opinionated comment, but I'll wait until Hannah gives out the legality version.
Okay. Well, so Michelle is correct in saying that the ordinance does not directly state that, in the event that a roommate moves out, other roommates aren't responsible for their rent. However, Every tenant has the right to vacate within 30 days notice, and that is not contingent on other tenants. That's an individual right. Each tenant is treated as an individual under the ordinance. So there is no shared responsibility in that regard. Regarding covering the rent, the ordinance is very clear regarding rent increases. So the property owner cannot just say, okay, well, somebody moved out, so now you have to cover the rent. They would have to go through the formal rent increase procedure, and they wouldn't just, be able to plop on the rest of the rent. It would have to follow within the guidelines of rent control guidelines that we have in the ordinance. So, that kind of speaks to both that, tenants can leave at will. They have the 30-day notice. They have the right to do so. And they're not, subject to that rent. The property owner would have to go through that formal process of a rent increase if they were so inclined.
Can I ask a question on that, Hannah? Do we know for sure that often in these types of situations that each roomed tenant, I should say, has their own lease, or is it just a lease and a specific rent amount for the entire apartment, and then sort of just shared and subletted in some cases as
So in the eyes of the ordinance, a tenant is a tenant, whether they have a lease or they're a tenant at will. They are still tenants, and they still have the rights that come with being a tenant. So it doesn't, the logistics and the specifics of how the lease is, negotiated between the tenants isn't necessarily as important. If that makes sense.
Remember, Kanda, are you okay with that explanation?
I am. I'm okay with that.
Unfortunately, the ordinance doesn't really dive deep into, the nature of roommates. It's a really complex world. There's a lot of different ways people live. As you've seen with all these applications, every application is different somehow. But we did, make sure that tenants are protected from being held responsible for their other tenants. In the way that we have the rent control mechanism is very specific, and the right to vacate is also very specific.
This is Board Member Janiak. I just have, since the topic of folks vacating serially, each on their own date and not all at the same time has been raised, I do think I feel obligated just to also ensure that the tenants who are attending this meeting tonight are aware that the relocation fee to which they would be entitled applies to their unit. So I know that we have some questions about whether folks are interested in purchasing. It's not clear that whether or not low income status applies to everyone in the unit, so we have to get all of that clarified as well. But once that's clarified, if anyone, if the unit is vacated early, there is a right to a $6,000 per unit relocation benefit to individuals who are not elderly, disabled, and low or moderate income. And just to be aware, of course, landlords can always choose to provide more than that, particularly in a case where you have 5 folks and maybe you have to move to 5 different places. $6,000 doesn't go that far, but I just wanted to, it seems like we have tenants who are reading the ordinance and perhaps well aware of what it includes, but I just wanted to raise that point as well, since the topic of folks leaving one at a time is coming up.
Yeah, that's a great point. And folks should still be receiving their relocation, whether they move first or last. The relocation is, when you move, you get it within 10 days of vacating, at any point in time during the notice period. So thank you for bringing that up as well.
Any further discussion?
Just to end really quick, I actually just wanted to tell her thank you for bringing that up. I have to be honest, I think we see different scenarios all the time, but I don't think I've seen one with this many tenants sharing a unit. So this has kind of given me a new perspective on how to look at these types of scenarios also. So I actually just want to tell her thank you for bringing that up. So now that's something that I can also have for my knowledge when I'm reviewing the applications going further that have more than 1 or 2 tenants in them. So thank you for your public comment. I appreciate that.
Thank you, guys. At least as far as myself and Josh, we don't have any other questions.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other public commenters, Hannah, regarding 18-20 Spring Street?
Nope, I am not seeing any other public comment.
Okay. So at this time, we'll now close the public commenting portion and move along and review the application. So as Attorney Vigorito covered, she is seeking the preliminary conversion permit for unit 18 and 18A and seeking a non-rental conversion permit for unit 20. Currently fully tenanted. We've heard tonight from 2 of the tenants, Ms. Carter and Mr. Bewlett. There are 2 other tenants, last name ending Atkins and Gregory, that Hannah will follow up with to get further clarification that they understood their full rights and that any open lines of questions from the application can be verified. Property has a residential exemption. There will be a waiting period for unit 18 and 18A. Unit 20 is exempt. The notice was given on February 12th of 2020. We have their certificate of good standing dated March 2nd. Final water bill paid in full as of March 2nd. We have a deed and we have a check in the amount of $1,800 to cover the 2 units falling under the preliminary conversion permit and $600 covering the unit 20 under the non-rental conversion permit. So at this time, I am prepared to make a motion for a roll call vote on a conditional preliminary conversion permit for unit 18 and 18A on the condition that Hannah follows up with the 2 tenants for further clarification in those units, and also a conditional non-rental conversion permit for unit 20. At this time, Hannah, if you can take roll call. And it would also be, I'm sorry, they would also be conditioned on the master deed and the engineer's report being submitted at a later date.
Okay. Chair Zaslav?
Yes.
Board Member Conda?
Yes.
Board Member Paul?
Yes.
And Board Member Janiak?
Yes.
Okay, it's so recorded.
Approved with a 4-0 vote. Thank you. The next application in front of the board this evening will be the application of Madeline Simi and Javad Aziz, and they are seeking a non-rental conversion permit for 38 Otis Street, Unit 1 and 2.
Javad, are you there? Mr. Aziz? I can see that he is present.
My speaker is off.
Oh, there you are. Hi, how are you? Mr. Aziz, are you there?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now. Chair Zaslav, if you want to go ahead and introduce the application.
Yes, so we have the application of Madeline Shimi and Javid Aziz, and they are seeking a non-rental conversion permit for 38 Otis Street, Unit 1 and 2. And I believe we have a representative who can speak to the application.
Mr. Aziz, if you want to go ahead.
Well, she has lived there since 1971, and I am just helping her fill out the application. She wants to sell it later on as condominiums, that's all.
Okay. Seeing that this is a pretty straightforward application, I will now open the floor to the board for discussion regarding 38 Otis Street. So the floor is now open to the board. If there's a board member who would like to comment. Seeing no comments from the board, we will close that portion of the meeting and open the floor to the public. If anyone on this virtual meeting would like to speak in favor or against the application for 38 Otis Street, Unit 1 and 2, please let Hannah know and she will grant you permission to speak.
It does look like we have somebody that has a question. Just give me 1 second. It looks like they have left the chat. Okay, so I don't see anybody new.
Okay. Seeing there are no public comments, public commenting for 38 Otis Street is now closed. With the application we have in front of us, the applicant is seeking a non-rental conversion permit for Unit 1 and 2 located at 38 Otis Street. Property is currently owner occupied. They are receiving a residential exemption. There would be no waiting period as there are no tenants to give notice to. Part of the application, we have the certificate of good standing dated April 22nd with the water bill as of paid in full as of April 22nd. We have the deed and we have a check in the amount of $1,200 to cover the application for the non-rental conversion permit for Unit 1 and 2. At this time, the application is missing the master deed and the engineer's report. So this would be a conditional approval or conditional vote. And at this time, I will now make a motion for the board to conduct a roll call vote on a conditional non-rental conversion permit for 38 Otis Street, Unit 1 and 2, on the condition that the master deed and engineer's report is submitted to the city staff at a future date.
Is that Zaslav?
Yes.
Board Member Konda?
Yes.
Vice Chair Paul?
Yes.
Board Member Janiak?
Yes.
Great. Vote is so recorded.
We have approval with a 4-0 vote. And moving along, continuing the meeting. I'm sorry?
Oh, I was just thanking David for coming to the meeting, the hearing.
Oh, okay. The next application in front of the board this evening is the application of Mary T. Gonda and for 78 North Street, and they're being represented by Attorney Vigorito.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Ann Vigorito, 424 Broadway, Somerville, Massachusetts, for the applicant, 78 North Street condominium. Mary T. Gonda is requesting a non-rental conversion permit for units 1 and 2 at 78 North Street. In the package before you, you do have a completed application, pages 1 through 10, a paid final water bill with a receipt, I do believe that was also updated this afternoon and sent to Hannah.
I did receive that.
Yep, oh, great. Certificate of good standing from the city of Somerville, a quick claim deed dated May 22nd, 1953, an owner affidavit and proof of residential exemption, as well as a check in the amount of $1,200 for the 2 conversion permits. Mrs. Gonda has resided in Unit 2 at 78 North Street since she purchased the property with her husband in 1953. For the past year, Ms. Gonda's grandson, Michael Gonda, has resided in Unit 1 at 78 North Street. Therefore, at this time, we are requesting a preliminary non-rental conversion permit for Units 1 and 2, as you do not have a master deed nor a structural engineer's permit. I respectfully request those approved.
Thank you very much, Attorney Vigorito. At this time, I will now open the floor to the board for discussion regarding the 78 North Street application. Any comments or questions from any board member? Seeing none, we will close that portion and open up the floor for public comments. If anyone is on the meeting and would like to speak in favor or against the application in front of us at 78 North Street, please let Hannah know and she will grant you access to speak.
I don't see anybody at this time.
Okay. Public, with no one looking to speak, public comments for 78 North Street are now closed. As the attorney just reviewed, property is fully owner occupied, has been since the 50s with Unit 2. The property owner's grandson for the last year has been residing in Unit 1. We have the completed application with the residential exemption. There is no waiting period as there are no tenants that needed to be notified. We have the certificate of good standing dated March 12th, water bill paid in full as of March 12th with the quitclaim deed, and we have a check in the amount of $1,200 to cover the preliminary non-rental conversion permit for Unit 1 and 2. At this time, the application is missing the master deed and the engineer's report, so we would condition the vote on those 2 items being presented to the city staff at a future date. Seeing that this is a straightforward application, I'm prepared to make a motion for the board to conduct a roll call vote on a conditional non-rental conversion permit for Unit 7 for 78 North Street, Unit 1 and 2.
Chair Zasloff?
Yes.
Member Conda?
Yes.
Vice Chair Paul?
Yes.
Board Member Janiak?
Yes.
And so it's recorded.
So we have approved application with a 4-0 vote. The last application in front of the board this evening is the application of Dry Ridge LLC. John Clausen, Terry Bem, Jackson Clausen, Kate Clausen, and this is in regards to 98 Oxford Street, where they are seeking a non-rental conversion permit for Unit 1 and 2.
Thank you. This is John Clausen. My family, which are my wife Terry and son Jackson and daughter Kate, purchased 98 Oxford, which is a 2-unit building from the prior owners who were owner occupants and lived there for about 10 years before we purchased it in September. We got just this morning a copy or confirmation of the residential exemption, thanks to Hannah's help in making sure we checked all the boxes and got all the materials for you. We started work on the building in November, upgrading all the systems, adding an additional bathroom to each of the 2 units. Unfortunately, construction got shut down in March or April, whenever kind of construction stopped in Somerville. We've probably got about 2 months worth of construction left to go, which we hope to wrap up soon. My son, Jackson, will be living in one of the units, and hopefully at some point in time, he'll be able to own it outright. The other unit we would have as a separate condominium, which we would rent with the potential of selling it at some point in time. I'm happy to answer any questions. I think we've provided most of the documents. I think the one thing that's missing still is the master deed.
Yes. And Hannah, was there an updated engineer's report?
Yes, I do believe there is an engineer's report included in the application.
If you can just put it up on the screen there, that would be great. While Hannah's doing that, I'll open the floor to the board for discussion regarding 98 Oxford Street, the application. If any board members has questions for the applicant, John, who's on the call this evening.
I think my son's also available separately. I think he signed in as well, if you have any questions for him.
Seeing there are no comments, questions from the board to the applicant, we'll continue to keep the meeting moving along. We will close this portion of the meeting to the board and open up the public commenting period for 98 Oxford Street. If anyone is on the virtual meeting would like to speak in favor or against this application, please let Hannah know and she will grant you access to make a statement.
I'm not seeing anybody at this time.
All right, public commenting for 98 Oxford Street is now closed. As the applicant reviewed with us, the property was formerly owner occupied, in which that they recently bought it within the last year or so. We have they were able to get the proof of residential exemption. There's no waiting period, no notice to be given. We have the certificate of good standing dated April 7th, 2020, with the water bill paid in full as of April 2nd, with the quitclaim deed included, and we have a check in the amount of $1,200. We also have the engineer architect's report as part of the application. So the one piece we are missing is the master deed, which we can condition as part of the voting process. Seeing that this is a straightforward application, I'm prepared to make a motion for the board to conduct a roll call vote on a conditional non-rental conversion permit for Unit 1 and Unit 2 located at 98 Oxford Street on the condition that the master deed is submitted to the city staff at a future date.
Great. Chair Zaslav?
Yes.
Board Member Konda?
Yes.
Vice Chair Paul?
Yes.
Board Member Janiak?
Yes.
Thank you.
Recorded.
Thank you. You've been approved with a 4-0 vote.
Thank you.
Seeing that that is the end of the agenda for this evening, we just to recap, we were not able to approve the February meeting minutes. So those will be tabled to the next meeting, which I believe I heard Hannah say would be June 1st. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So at this time, if someone would like to make a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Someone second it?
I second the motion to adjourn.
Meeting adjourned.
Okay, that does not need a roll call vote. Thanks, everybody. Have a great rest of your night.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Have a good one, guys.
Bye.